You can run on for a long time. Sooner or later, God'll cut you down. Johnny Cash. I can't stop, Scott yelled over at me, the yellow Mustang screaming down the Pacific Highway and braking 100 miles per hour. He slammed his foot down to the floor again and again. Nothing. It must have cut the lines, he continued, the panic in his eyes increasing. 107. Fuck. I don't want to die like this, man. I looked over at his terrified eyes and back up through the clear glass. The shocked face of an 8-year-old little boy rushed past us as we continued to pick up speed. 116 miles per hour now. And for the briefest of moments, the pulse of the adrenaline rushing through my body cleared, and a feeling of euphoria washed over me. This felt like a video game, and Scott was pretty damn good at it. An elderly couple, or at least I think they were, in a white van changed lanes without seeing us, and it almost ended for all 4 of us right then and there. Jesus, Scott said under his breath, managing to pull the wheel to the left and barely avoid them while somehow not flipping the car. 125. The euphoric feeling dissipated and the adrenaline pumped back into my heart. Watching Scott swerve and miraculously avoid every obstacle thrown at him, I couldn't help but feel admiration for my friend. There was an icy focus to his eyes now, and he wasn't about to give up. Despite everything that had happened, there would be no surrender. Not yet, at least. Hold on, he said, turning the wheel abruptly to the right and speeding up the runaway truck ramp. 118 miles per hour. I think we're slowing down. 95. Yeah, I think so too, I replied, taking a deep breath. 60. 30. The Mustang rolled to a halt as we breathed a collective sigh and exchanged a look of relief. I put my hand on his shoulder. Good thinking. We got lucky again, man, he replied, the terror never leaving his eyes as he stared over at me. He fought back tears and continued, I can't keep this up forever. And he was right. He couldn't. The brake lines being cut was just the latest incident since he had seen the film only a short time ago. There had been the house fire. Scott had barely gotten out alive, just happening to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning for a glass of water. After 911 had been called and the house had been evaluated, the authorities determined it to be caused by faulty wiring and nothing more. He knew better. There was the near electrocution, the jack stand for his car almost crushing him, and the wolves. I'd rather not speak about that one. What should we do? Scott asked me, the adrenaline dying and a blank stare falling across his face as he gazed out of the car window and up into the thick green trees and surrounding hills. I took a moment to gather my thoughts, and then finally replied, we persist. His exhausted body turned towards me as he dug into his left breast pocket and pulled out a cigarette. He nearly dropped it before gripping the steel handle tighter, flicking the flame and taking a slow drag. You're right. We'll figure this out. Scott smiled. Thanks for being here, Dan. If you ever want to leave, I interrupted. I'm here with you till the end, I replied. He nodded. And then he held his hands around his throat, first puzzled and then terrified. I can't breathe. Help me. Help me. His eyes glazed over and he went unconscious. I put my ear against his chest and listened to his respirations, shallow yet still there. His pulse was thready and quickening, yet it continued. And as his breathing slowed, I saw the red flashing lights of an ambulance speeding up the ramp behind us. Someone must have dialed 911. You've got to be kidding me, As a man and woman quickly got out of the ambulance and ran over to us, I readied myself and then exited the car. "Help my friend." Scott had been having a terrible time the past few years. His father had died of cancer. He had lost each job he had fought so hard for, and his girlfriend even left him after he had proposed. I had no choice but to kill her later on and bury her body in the hills. I told Scott that she was trouble from the start. I didn't tell the two medics why he had passed out, and I certainly wasn't going to explain how I had laced the cigarette with poison this morning while he slept. I know what you're thinking, and yes, it was supposed to be painless. I just wanted to end his pain. In a way, death had been after Scott. Watching the two medics work desperately to save him, I found a grin falling over my face. He had never shown this type of resilience before, and it was impressive. Still, he had been through too much, and I didn't want him to struggle anymore. And it wasn't like I was just being selfish. With every attempt at Scott's life, I had been planning to die with him as well. That's what friends are for. Yet, each time he had made it. Sure, he survived the fire and what happened before. Yes, he had gotten lucky after I had cut the brake lines. And maybe he would even be saved by the paramedics in these bright green hills before the poison spread completely through his lungs and then into his heart. But I'll get him one of these days. They say you have to make a goal, and no matter what, persist. Well, there's always tomorrow.